We interrupt this transmission to provide you with episode 13 of 1 minute and 43 seconds, a true unsolved mysteries podcast with special guest Joanne. Enjoy the show.
I thought it was interesting. I've never heard of that case before. But also, like, you know, I think that you're much more interested in things like that than I am, which is probably why I heard of it, you know.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really odd, like the letter and, you know, like everything else, I guess. The way that, like, the dude died and just, I mean, and for like...
We're talking about Ray Rivera because I started it late, so...
Yeah, no, I just thought like the whole thing is just really bizarre. So that was it was really interesting to me. I really liked it. Good job.
Well, thank you. You should watch, there's I don't know if you ever used to watch Unsolved Mysteries back in the day.
No.
Okay, never mind. Well, there is a show called Unsolved Mysteries, and they just did a reboot of it on Netflix. So they're like doing different cases now.
Oh,
and
really?
that was one of them.
Oh, is that why you chose it, or?
Yeah, I had never heard of it before I saw that, and it was really, really interesting. And if you want some good visuals to go with the story, that's a good place to find it.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. I was telling Chet earlier on, like, you know, what we're doing, and he was like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "I've got a mystery for her to solve."
He can always be a guest too, or he can even make a guest appearance. It's totally cool.
Yeah, but he was like, I'm always losing my shit.
I mean, aren't we all?
I was like, okay.
I love it.
That's why I told him about your podcast. And
will you thank him for his contribution? Because that's just wonderful.
I will.
Well, welcome. Thanks for doing this, despite your not being as interested in unsolved mysteries as I am. So why do you want to do it? Just because you love me?
Yeah, well, that is obviously the very first reason why. The second reason, I just thought it would be fun. You know, I was like, oh yeah, you know, might as well. Like, I mean, you know, just because I don't actively look into these things doesn't mean that, you know, when I'm in it, I'm not like, whoa, that's freaking weird. You know what I mean? Like when I was listening to that episode earlier today, I was like, whoa, that's actually really interesting and really odd. And like, you know, you like, for me, like my mind was blown, right? Like some of the stuff that you were talking about, I was like, what the hell? Like that is just so bizarre. So yeah, I mean, just because I'm not very proactive about it, you know, like you are, it still is very mind blowing to me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You should. Well, welcome to the world of unsolved mysteries. There's like tons of stuff out there that would blow your mind, man. For real.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think when we talked about this last time, we decided we were going to do some mysteries that really didn't involve death or, you know, something more sinister. Is that still, I mean, because the Ray Rivera thing, that involved somebody dying and you thought it was fascinating. So I'm just wondering how you're feeling now currently about those kind of stories.
Let's start off with like, you know,
start off small.
Yeah. Okay. We go there, right? Like yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we can do that. I got a couple for you that I think are interesting. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should ask you first. Like, do you want to introduce yourself at all?
Oh, sure. I'm Joanne. And Megan and I first met in college. We met through our mutual love and learning for the Chinese language. I'm Chinese. And she was learning about it. And we met through Facebook, right?
We did. A Loyola Facebook group, like incoming class.
Yeah, for the incoming class. And we were like, oh my gosh, we really have to meet. And I don't know. I know that we ended up meeting for the very first time at Target because
yes, we did.
They like shuttled us all of us to Target. And I think like we had said, you know, like, oh, let's meet there or something like that together because we all needed to go to Target or something.
Exactly. It was orientation week.
Yeah. So that was how we first met. So now, over 10 years later, I don't know how many years it's been.
2007, so it's been
14.
Oh, thank you. 14 years.
Yeah, 14 years.
This is an Unsolved Mysteries podcast, not a math podcast. So
you're absolutely right about that.
Thank you.
Yes. And, you know, we've been like friends, you know, since, and we basically talk every day. And
we do
now,
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. And now even when I like I moved to Utah, like, you know, several years ago, but, even now, since we're like so many states away, we still keep in touch. And I think that that's pretty damn cool.
That is really cool. And for anybody listening that doesn't know this, we went on a road trip together. What was that? 2 weeks ago now.
Jeez,
hard to believe.
Been 2 weeks?
Yeah, so Joanne lives in Salt Lake City. I flew out there and we drove to California and we hit up several spots in California and we drove all the way back. So
yes, we did.
That was a good time.
It was a good.
We saw a lot.
Yes, we did a lot in like several days.
We did.
Yeah.
We got to do it again soon.
We do.
What's your next week looking like?
Well, now that I quit my job, I probably can.
Yeah, that's right. Congrats again. Happy last day tomorrow.
Yes.
This is your last day of work eve. So what better way to celebrate?
Yes. And to hang out, chill. Made myself an old fashioned earlier.
Okay. So do you want me to tell you about this first mystery that I thought of? Well, this is local to Chicago. And I think I sent you a link to this. I don't know if you read it, but if you didn't, that's fine because I'm going to tell you about it.
Okay.
But it's local to Chicago. And when we talked about doing a mystery or mysteries that weren't super sinister, this one immediately came to my mind.
Okay.
So it's called the Max Headroom Signal Hijacking.
The Max what?
Headroom.
Head. Oh.
Head as in your head, room as in I'm in this room. Max
Literally.
Headroom. Yeah, okay. And so this Max Headroom is actually a British fictional character. He's an artificial intelligence character known for his wit, his stuttering, and his electronically altered voice. So he was introduced in early 1985, and I guess it was some TV show, in the 80s. But anyway, that's where the name comes from. So this is what happened. So on November 22nd, 1987, in Chicago, okay, two different television stations were hijacked in an act of video piracy. And it was a video of an unidentified person who was wearing a mask of this Max Headroom person, this fictional character, okay? He had distorted audio. There was a metal panel swiveling in the background to mimic Max Headroom's geometric background effect, which is from this show, I guess, this obscure 1980s show. So essentially, somebody hijacked the signal, the TV signal for two different stations, and it interrupted like regular TV.
Uh-huh.
So that's the background of this, okay? So the first incident took place during a sports segment of WGN-TV's 9 o'clock news broadcast, and it lasted about 25 seconds. So during this intrusion, the person that was in the mask swayed erratically, and there was like a strange buzzing noise. I thought it'd be cool if I showed you the video.
Yeah.
So you understand just how strange this is.
Okay.
So this is the first signal interruption that happened during the 9 o'clock news.
That is really creepy.
It's creepy, right?
Yeah, that's really creepy.
I wish that, I mean, this, like I said already, this is a podcast, so it's all audio, but I wish I could have captured your expression.
Yeah, that is really creepy. Like, the best way that I can describe it, like, honestly, is just a person with a really creepy mask on.
Yes.
Like, how
and I'm going to post pictures of it online. I mean, for those that aren't familiar with this, but yeah.
Yes, please. Because, yeah, and unless, like, there's a visual of it, like, you really don't get, like how
weird it is. I agree. And I had no idea who this Max Headroom person was. So I had to look up that it's like this fictional character. That's what the mask is anyway. But just wait until you see the second one. It's even more strange.
Really? It cannot be more strange than that.
Yes. Oh, just you wait and see. So I was wrong. I said 25 seconds. It was 28 seconds. And they actually, engineers at the station, the WGN station, switched it. They changed the frequency of the signal so it would go to a station or a signal that was on top of the Hancock Tower. Because originally it was going to, I think they used their signal from the Sears Tower. So in order to stop whatever the hell this was, they switched the signal. So that was the first one. Okay.
Interesting.
So right after they switched this, it was actually right in the middle of like the sports part of the news. So the anchor, whose name was Dan Roan, he commented, "Well, if you're wondering what happened, so am I." So everyone was confused. So they kind of joked around about it, but then they just continued with the report of the sports. They were talking about the Chicago Bears game. So that was that. Okay. So the same night, November 22nd, this time on WTTW, about 11:20, the local PBS station was interrupted during an episode of the show Doctor Who. Oh, you know that show?
Yeah.
So this time it was the same person, the same weirdo, weird dude. This time he was speaking, but the voice was pretty distorted. So I will describe what's happening in the video and then I'll show it to you. Or do you want to see it first? Or
no. Yeah.
Okay, I'll describe it first. Okay. So the masked figure made a comment about nerds. He was talking about the WGN sportscaster Chuck Swirsky. And he referred to him as a, quote, frickin' liberal.
Jeez.
He held up a can of Pepsi while saying, "Catch the wave," which was a slogan for Coca-Cola that featured this fictional character, I guess, at the time. And then he held up a middle finger inside what appeared to be a hollowed out dildo. Yes.
What?
Yes. So the figure, this mysterious person, then went through a series of comments and song snippets. He sang the phrase, "Your love is fading." He hummed the theme song to the 1959 animated series Clutch Cargo. Oh, he feigned defecation.
Gross.
And explained, yeah, that is gross. Yeah. And explained that he had, quote, made a giant masterpiece for all the greatest world newspaper nerds, which is a reference to WGN because that stands for World's Greatest Newspaper, if you didn't know, but.
I didn't. Good.
Yeah. So he discussed sharing a pair of dirty gloves with his brother. After a crude video edit, the person had moved mostly off screen to the left with his partially exposed buttocks visible from the side, and a female figure appeared on the right edge of the frame.
What?
I guess he took off the mask. He starts yelling, and the female figure begins spanking him with a fly swatter.
What the?
I told you this is going to get even weirder. Yeah. So This whole thing lasted about 90 seconds. So,
oh my God.
are you ready to see this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So this interrupted Doctor Who, and this was about 11:20. So here you go.
Because he's a freaking nerd. I think I'm gonna check Swarovski. Freaking oh, Jesus.
I'm glad it has subtitles, by the way.
What's the wave? I still see the X. My files. Oh, I just made a giant masterpiece for all the greatest world newspaper nerds. My brother is wearing the other one, but it's dirty. You can put my time. Coming to get me.
Okay.
Reactions?
So I described it already. But like watching it is a whole different experience. Like the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, a description really doesn't do it justice.
No.
So that's weird, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. No, that is like, I think weird is like an understatement.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's like beyond weird.
Beyond weird, yeah.
God.
So this one happened, like I said, around 11:20. And right after the Doctor Who show began again. So like 90 seconds of the show was missing and it went back. So the engineers, the technicians at the studio at WTTW, they could not counteract the signal takeover because there were no engineers on duty at that time of night at the Sears Tower.
Oh gosh.
Which is where the signal or the tower was located, right? So they attempted, attempted to take corrective measures, but they couldn't. So the air director, who was named Paul Rizzo, recalled that as the content got weirder, we got increasingly stressed out about our inability to do anything about it. So imagine you're working for this station and this happens and you're just kind of like,
You're basically watching like this whole thing go down and you like can't do anything about it.
Yeah, so it ended when the hijackers ended it. So they ended the transmission. So as they were looking on, like I said, this one was 90 seconds. As they were looking into it, it was over before they could even start to grasp what was going on. And the station actually got a lot of like calls from people that were watching TV and were wondering what was going on.
I bet.
Because it was so strange. Okay. So some of the things they were able to determine about this, they had to send a more powerful transmission than the two stations' broadcast towers could send themselves, which was actually really hard to do. Like to get it, I guess, and I don't understand all of this, like radio broadcasting terminology, but basically whoever was doing this had a strong enough signal that was stronger than the TV station's signal. So apparently this was difficult to do back in 1987. But it was possible. So at that time they had analog signals and then they had digital signals, but not until like 2009.
Wow.
Yeah. So experts that studied this said that a lot of technical expertise would be required and a significant amount of transmitting power. So they figured because of this that whoever was doing this was likely in the city or likely within a reasonable distance to the towers, which were all in downtown Chicago. I think primarily on the Sears Tower. So this is unsolved. Nobody knows who this is. And nobody ever claimed responsibility. And there's been tons of like different speculation, but nobody's ever confessed. Nobody's ever come to a conclusion. There was a whole investigation, like the police were involved and like, so the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission, they said the perpetrators who were responsible for this could face $100,000.
Oh, well, no
a fine,
shit.
yeah, and up to a year in prison.
Yeah, like no shit, nobody came forth with that because.
But check it out though, the statute of limitations was surpassed just in 1992, just 5 years later.
Really?
So if the person were to come forward 1992 and beyond, there would be no criminal punishment for that person.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting to me that it was only 5 years, but I guess I don't know how they determine the statute of limitations. I guess it's different for different things.
Yeah, it could
And
be.
something like this, it's, I can see how it's serious, but it's not a murder or anything like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely probably like different levels of seriousness, I guess.
A lot of people said it was maybe a disgruntled employee or a former employee of either one of the stations that did it, which is a pretty good guess. But I mean, that's all there is. That's all that is. It's just a guess. So that's basically it. I've read a lot about this online, and a lot of people are saying basically like it's one of those things that it's like it's more lighthearted. People just think it's funny, and a lot of people said like some things are just better left unexplained forever. So it's kind of gone down in history as like this, infamous thing where this guy was able to do this, and what it all means, who knows?
That's very interesting. Very crazy. I'm kind of surprised that, if there's like, I don't know, guesses, I guess, that, they're like, oh, maybe it was a disgruntled employee from before or something. Like, wouldn't you think that people who were, I guess, working there then would have said like, oh, it was so-and-so, or like so-and-so, or like there's like a higher chance of so-and-so being the person who would have done something like this. Like I'm kind of like, really, like no one has come out to say anything, like.
Yeah. That's true.
That's like kind of mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. But yeah, nobody ever claimed responsibility for it.
Huh.
Yeah, so whoever it is and whatever their motives were, it's a mystery.
And everything that they said in the videos made absolutely no sense.
I agree. It was like a lot of very strange references. Of course, I think they're strange, but that's me being in 2021. I wasn't alive at the time, but
yeah,
it's definitely bizarre.
Right, exactly. And it kind of makes me think like, I mean, obviously the person timed it to know exactly what time Doctor Who came on, for
Do you
example.
think they planned the exact times though?
I do. Because like, why else would they? I mean, I guess I don't know exactly like what time Doctor Who came on at that time, during like at that time or whatever. But when they were like, you freaking nerds or something like that, like in the
oh
like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
like that, they have to have planned it in order to say something like that, or they were watching it or something before they jumped in and interfered with the signal before doing this whole thing.
Yeah.
So, that's at least, from watching that, that's kind of what I gleaned from it. It's just very bizarre.
Yeah. So that's the Max Headroom Signal hijacking that took over Chicago. You're welcome. So that was 33 years ago. I doubt whoever did it will ever be caught.
Yeah. Unless like, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess like, okay, 33 years ago, right? If they were in their 20s or maybe early 30s, that means that they're mid 60s right now. And if they're still alive, maybe they like come out and say like, oh, it was me, you know, all those years ago. Now that I'm older.
I would do it, right? I mean, if it was me and if I didn't face any criminal charges, I mean, the guy's like a legend on the internet.
Yeah.
People eat it up, so.
Right. Maybe he'll do it like, you know, in his 80s or something. So we've still got some years to go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So I have a couple others here. Do you want me to go into those as well?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. I'm trying to decide between two. So would you prefer, just by the titles, I'll let you pick. So here are the titles. Kutchie's Key Lime Pies or The Mysterious Stones of Birmingham?
Let's do The Mysterious Stones.
Okay, let's do. Okay, so this was 1981, okay? And we're going across the pond to Birmingham, England. Okay, 1981 and 1982. So basically there were 5 houses on this road in England, Thornton Road in Birmingham. These people in these residences kept calling the police because they were reporting that stones were being thrown against their windows at night.
Okay.
So, so these stones were being thrown against and at their house and roof, like all night. And so they called the police. Police examined the stones and they never found any trace of fingerprints, right? So they're like, okay, whoever's doing this is wearing gloves, okay? 3 years this happened. This kept happening.
What?
3 years. No one was ever caught. And the Birmingham police went apparently to very extreme lengths to try to find out who was responsible for this, including round-the-clock surveillance, camera installations, and like other stuff like hiding in trees. And it's still, it's still unsolved. And so it's actually been thought of as maybe a ghost is doing this.
Interesting.
Yeah. So let's see. So for 3 years, it started in 1981. These people had their windows smashed and they were like polished stones that seemed to just like rain down from the sky at night. So they damaged windows, they damaged roofs, and they frightened people, obviously.
Right.
A lot of people built up like barricades because they started to think maybe it was like a paranormal attack, right?
Whoa. Mm-hmm.
So they had police officers, they were getting so many reports of this. They had them, camped out in gardens, they hid in trees, they set up all these cameras, and they even brought in ballistic experts.
Wow.
Nobody could figure out what the hell was causing these stones. So there were three houses in particular that like were getting the most of this. It was basically their rear windows and roofs that were damaged. And they would put like chicken wire over their windows and stuff to avoid the damage.
Right.
So these people were terrified. And this is a pretty short one, but.
Yeah, no, that's really bizarre. And like, it's been going on for 3 years and they still couldn't figure out who it was, even though they had all these people surveilling and hiding in trees, which I thought was freaking hilarious.
I know.
But nothing? Wow.
Yeah, no, nothing. So it's been dismissed as like an urban legend because they weren't able to find anything. But I mean, there's newspaper clippings and stuff from the time. So I believe that this happened, but they never saw any human like human activity.
It's interesting that they dismissed it as urban legend when it was happening.
I agree.
To people. It's not like it just happened to one person and this person said, "Oh, this is happening to me," and then like can't prove it or whatever. I don't really know how to, describe that. But if it's like a whole quote unquote village with several residences and police being involved and round the clock surveillance and stuff, like how do they just dismiss it as urban legend?
What gets me about this is that like I could see it being dismissed as an urban legend or like a ghost story or something. Well, an urban legend, I should say, if it happened like 100 years ago. But this was in 1981.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
exactly.
It was a long time ago, but it was still,
It wasn't like, like you were saying, it wasn't like 100 years ago. It wasn't like ancient.
Right.
Like, we're talking still, it happened in the 80s, not, 1800s.
Yeah. And there's not much information available on it other than people were scared and they could never find a culprit. So
like all of a sudden it just stopped or just...
I mean, I haven't really found much to say. So there's this woman named Natalie Holford, and she was 17 years old when they're calling them attacks because, I mean, obviously they figure someone's behind it. But anyway, she's open-minded and she thinks that, maybe it was paranormal. But she says, quote, "Nowadays, I believe very much in psychic things. I just wish I knew then what I know now. Ooh. At the time, I said there was someone who knew what was going on, but I'm more open-minded now. It was like I was being stalked, as if someone was watching us. The police would leave at 2 a.m., and by the time they had reached the police station, there would be another attack. You could hear the stones rolling down the roof. It was so weird. It always happened when you were falling asleep. I was studying for A-levels at the time, and it took its toll on me. My A-levels were rubbish. I assume that's some kind of exam or something. Anyway, it got to the point where you couldn't sleep, so you were just waiting for something to happen. It was happening so regularly. There were police everywhere, and they even put a camera in one of our rooms. My mom was at her wit's end. It was the lack of sleep."
Oh my gosh. I'm surprised you didn't.
This is creepy.
It is.
What'd you say?
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm surprised you didn't say all that in a British accent.
Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Somebody else says, this guy, Jeffrey, so he was working nights, so he wasn't actually at home, but he would come home to see the damage afterwards. And he said, "It upset the whole household. There were police everywhere, even in the trees." No, it upset the whole household. There were police everywhere, even in the trees, freezing.
Ooh.
Windows were smashed every night by stones. As soon as you replaced one, it would be put through again. One bed was covered in glass. We weren't fully insured, so it must have cost a fortune.
Oh, man.
This is from a woman named Gwyneth, who's 64 now. But she says, "It took my mother's life. I can remember a stone coming through the window and landing right by her wheelchair. I used to go to bed with a Bible under my pillow and prayed every night for it to stop. A vicar came to our house and he was convinced it was the work of vandals." I'm not sure how it took the life of her mother. I'm guessing either through stress, because it doesn't say directly here. It says a rock came and landed by her wheelchair, but could have been stress.
Or lack of sleep.
Lack of sleep, yeah.
Man.
I'll show you a picture of what the stones looked like. I don't know, how to scale these, but they look pretty big to me.
They do look really big. I'm just kind of looking at I guess that's a basket in the background.
Yeah.
And
they look like boulders almost.
Yeah, they look like pretty decently sized boulders.
They've got to have some weight to them if they're breaking windows, right?
Yeah, for sure. They're not like little tiny ones when someone's trying to ask you to sneak out at night or something like that.
Right. You know, I did that to Wes once, not to sneak out, but I had forgotten my keys when I was coming to visit him one night, or one evening after work. And so his bedroom was on the 3rd floor. This was when he was with his parents, right? And I'm standing outside throwing little pebbles at his window because I think my phone was dead or something, and I didn't have keys. So I'm standing there throwing these pebbles, and I can't get it right, and I'm not getting the attention. And so finally, I just yell out his name, and then he comes over. And I'm like, wow, you're an idiot, Megan.
That's romantic.
Isn't it, though? Anyway, then he came and let me in, and I was like, yeah, my phone died. So that's really it on the stone thing. I mean, no, there was no conclusions. I guess, yeah, because it says it terrorized them for 3 years and then it just stopped. So
weird.
I don't know what to make of that. I mean, why those random people?
Yeah.
There was a tornado once near where my hometown was. People saying that pieces of like pebbles and stuff were falling from the sky because it was like debris that the storm had picked up.
Right, right.
So that's the only thing I could think of for like a natural explanation. But at the same time, that doesn't make sense because if it was continuous and if it was significant, I mean, these were little pebbles, right?
Right.
And if it was this significant to cause that much damage, I don't see how it could be anything that isn't paranormal. I mean, I can't find any other explanation for it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah. Like at first when you were, telling me all of this, I was thinking, oh, like it's some kid or like teenager who is pissed off or something and like, just trying to vandalize the whole place because they got in trouble for whatever reason and, all this stuff. But then when you're like, oh no, it happened for like 3 years straight, I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. And
3 years is a long time.
Yeah.
I'd get bored after like a day.
I know. Right.
Throw some rocks, be like, okay, this isn't doing it for me anymore. No. I'm gonna go home.
Yeah, like I'm
watch
gonna
some Netflix or something.
Yeah, take my anger somewhere else. But no, like and like with like round the clock surveillance and stuff, and like they weren't able to catch the person. That's bizarre.
I want to know what they saw. So I'm wondering when they were doing the surveillance, if it like stopped while they were there.
Right.
Or if it happened, but they just couldn't determine the source, because that would be interesting.
Right.
To know. Yeah. I'll do some more research on that, but it sounded like from that one person's post, it sounded like it wouldn't happen when people were watching.
That's kind of the impression I got too, based on
which makes it even scarier and creepier.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I know that, I'm being watched, so I'm not gonna do that. And I mean, it could be paranormal, right? It could be like, I don't know, an angry spirit or something. It's like,
where do you stand on paranormal stuff?
I think that it's definitely a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And us, because
like what? I'm sorry.
Around us.
Around us. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I've heard too many stories.
Really?
Yeah, from like people that I know, like my dad and friends and stuff.
Really? You want to share any? If not, it's okay.
Yeah. And this is also in Chicago, right? So my dad never went into detail about it because he was like, I don't want to scare you guys. But he was like walking around Chinatown and
in Chicago.
Yep. At
okay.
night. And he was like, all of a sudden he just saw this like little boy like in front of him.
And this was at what time? Or just sometime at night? Sometime
at night.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it just stood there. And then, that was it. That was all he told us. And he didn't go any further.
It wasn't just a boy that was out randomly?
No, I think it was the way that it looked.
Okay. Something was not right or off about it. Okay.
Exactly. So, the way that he described it to us, and again, he didn't go into too much detail because he was like, he specifically said, I don't want to scare you, to my mom. So.
Okay. So this wasn't even to scare you, the kids. It was for your mom. Okay.
Yeah. He was, cause I don't even know like what we were talking about or something. like it was like a conversation like with the family, and then he was like, "Oh, I've seen something like that before." Like it was yeah, and my mom was like, what happened? And he was like, he started and he was like, never mind, I'm not gonna scare you with it.
Do you know where in Chinatown this was? I'm just curious.
I believe it was, it wasn't Chinatown Square, like the down the street. Is it Wentworth?
Wentworth is the older, I know, yeah. Wentworth.
So. Yeah, because I think
that's like the main.
Yeah. Yep, that one. Wentworth, it's like, I don't know what the intersection was, but it's like basically at the beginning of Wentworth, when you are just walking through like Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like here's the train station and here's the square and then here's Wentworth, and it's like at the beginning part of it.
Okay.
Where he was at when he saw that.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Was he scared?
He didn't share that either. I'm assuming he was.
He was being strong for you guys and for your mom.
Yeah, but
like it was no big deal.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Saw a random kid outside.
Yeah, and then another one was like in high school. My friend was playing the Ouija board.
Oh, see, that's where I'm gonna. Yeah. Hell no.
Yeah, exactly. And I would never touch that thing. Ever since she told me this, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a group of friends, we're doing this like after school, more than once actually, but like after like just to do this even like after the first time, I'm just like, what the hell? But whatever. Anyway, so after the first time, she shared this with me.
So you weren't there?
No, I was not there.
Okay.
He was like, all this crazy shit happened. Like we asked questions and we got answers that none of us are supposed to know. You know what I mean? Like they had asked some, because you know how the whole thing works, right? Like
you ask it questions and then it like,
and then it points to like the letters or something that's supposed to be answers. And so each one of them had asked a question that the other people wouldn't have known. And the answers that were spelled out with the letters, it was exactly the answer that would have been that nobody else would have known, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and it was just like...
It's crazy.
I know, like all this other like environmental stuff started happening around them, like lights flickering and all this crazy. I'm like, dude, no.
No.
Just stay away.
Can we just play like Monopoly or something?
Like I don't... Yeah, I'm like...
got a checkerboard or something? I mean, please.
Like, yeah, like you want a board game? Play something else. Like yeah, that's why I never touch that. I see it and I'm just like, hell no to that.
We're going to turn all the lights on and we're going to play checkers. That's what we're going to do.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I hesitate to even say this because it's like, I don't want to summon anything. But at the same time, it's like, I keep an open mind about it. I am not personally, that I know of, experienced anything paranormal, but I mean, I do keep an open mind about it because I've heard a lot of, I hear things, and so my mind is open, but
yeah,
that's where I stand on it.
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean by that.
Yeah. So that is the mysterious stones of Birmingham.
Good to know about it.
Well, now you know. Okay, this is one of my favorite ones.
Okay.
And I hope I do it justice by explaining it, but it's very weird. It's an internet mystery-ish, yeah. So this one's called Kutchie's Key Lime Pies, okay?
Okay.
So basically, somebody has spent several years of their life posting about these, quote, Captain Kutchie's Key Lime Pies. And they've been posting about them all over the internet, okay? Yeah, I know. Joanne's making a very confused face right now.
Yeah, no, because I'm like trying to envision like what the abbreviations would be.
Oh, you're already trying to dive into like some kind of code or something. I see.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. So basically these comments started showing up on random websites about these key lime pies from this restaurant called Kutchie's Key West Cafe, okay? And this person who was posting these comments would always like praise the key lime pies that you could find at this particular restaurant, right? And they'd talk about these cheeseburgers and how they're the best in the world. And like people from all over America visit this place to taste their key lime pie. And he always talks about the restaurant being owned by this guy named Oswald, Pelaez. I don't know. He's always talking about like this restaurant, who runs it, and then it's in Asheville, North Carolina. Okay. So all his posts are pretty like actually clever. They're always containing these puns and wordplay. He references a lot of celebrities, especially celebrities that were famous like in the 60s. And he's always talking about this damn restaurant. People started noticing these comments and they're like, what the hell? So people weren't sure if this place actually existed. Because at first people were like, maybe this is like a marketing campaign, right?
That's what I was thinking too, yeah.
But here's the thing, it is a real restaurant, but it closed in like 2006. And these posts about this place appeared in 2009.
What?
First appeared in 2009. Okay. So it was a restaurant and it was in Asheville, North Carolina. And it was owned by this guy named Oswald Pelaez, which I spelled earlier. And they called this guy Kutchie and his wife, Anita. There's a lot of like, people actually did some digging and found out this restaurant does exist, or it did exist. Okay. Right. And it was actually at some point, like in 2006 or 2007, it was bought out and it was turned into a sports bar. So the restaurant did exist, but it does no longer. And especially by the time of these posts, it was not the same restaurant anymore. Okay.
Right. Okay.
This poster would always talk about these goody cheeseburgers and the key lime pies at this restaurant. But you can't find any reference to these items in any ads for the restaurant. Like they weren't known for these items. Like they served them, but they were primarily known for like steaks and prime rib and seafood, which this poster who's posting about it never mentions that. Weird. And the ads were from the 80s and the 90s. I mean, some people remember eating these things at the restaurant, but it's just like something they had, you know, it wasn't like what they were famous for. So
interesting.
Yeah. When it comes to the posts that he posts on, it's clear that whoever's doing this is Googling certain things and finding like the most common articles or something and then commenting on them. So he posts on stuff that's related to key lime pie, burgers, food in general, anything like Asheville, North Carolina, Florida. He talks about Hemingway because Hemingway lived in the Florida Keys. He posts, I think his first post actually was on a reggae website because this guy, Captain Kutchie, which was the name of the guy that owned the restaurant, apparently Kutchie is a slang term that's used in reggae music and it means marijuana.
Oh, really?
So this person is clearly like Googling certain things and commenting on things, even though like they're not necessarily related to the restaurant, but we're talking like hundreds of these comments.
Right.
As a few years went on, the person started posting on like sexual things. And he would never comment on like pornography directly, but he would post on like relationship websites or like pictures of quote hot girls or like tabloid pictures of like that were like risque, right? The earliest known post for this person was October of 2009. Here's the first post that people were able to find on this. This was on the reggae website that I was talking to you about. And it was some guy that shared a song called like Pass the Kutchie or something, which means marijuana. Right. So I'll just read it since this will be audio. We love it. Yeah. We love it. Yeah. Pass the damn Kutchie, man. Hear what I'm saying, man. You know what I mean? I said, pass the damn Kutchie. No, man, not the green stuff, the mellow yellow stuff. The world's greatest and most famous key lime pie from Kutchie Cafe, made by Kutchie Pelez himself in Kutchie's rocking Key West, the best island in the whole wide world. No, Kutchie is not a goody-goody, but that be his famous cheeseburgers, goody goodies. While you be passing the Kutchie, make mine a huge slice and one of those goody Kutchie burgers. I'll have 2 bottles of beer, please. Can you make that to go? Gene Hackman.
Who's Gene Hackman?
He's an actor, right? So he's retired now, but he was like primarily, he was born in 1930, so he was active like in the earlier years. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh. Mm-hmm.
So this guy mentions a lot, like this guy's like 1960s, he was in some stuff, 1970s. I mean, he's been in stuff for his whole career, but the point is this person often mentions things like that. So that was a comment on the reggae video. So you can tell like it's obviously like mocking the reggae song a little bit, or like this, so the language, and it's one, a lot of people have wondered if this is like a bot or something that's posting these. But there's a lot of theories about it.
I would like to hear those theories, because a bot, really?
Yeah. So there's been more than 700 posts that people have found. Okay. And the real number is probably higher because of things that have been deleted, or like, I mean, things get deleted and, you know, it's been over the span of years, right? A lot of people saying, like, looking at the dates they were posted, the poster's behavior does not seem automated. He never posted more than 10 posts in a day.
Oh.
Here's something you might find interesting. Here's a graph of the posting history.
Oh.
So you can see the first post appeared in like 2009, right?
Uh-huh.
And then it was kind of like 2011, it was kind of here and there. And then it really, really exploded around like 2013, 2014, and goes all the way up to 2016, which is, I think around 2016 is where, or when the people started paying attention and were like posting about this on Reddit.
Oh.
So I don't know if the person like either was spooked or if they like, you know, I don't know. The increased posting frequency in 2013 marks the introduction of copy-pasted messages.
Oh.
So this person might have just been, this person's like spamming this stuff all over the internet. So this poster, he posts his comments under, I was right with the pseudonyms. That is the word I was looking for.
Okay.
So the most common pseudonyms he uses are Jake Carson, Willie Jordan, and Roger Ramjet. Roger Ramjet is a cartoon from the 60s.
Oh.
The origin of the other names isn't really known, but he often posts under fake, like names of celebrities, but they're misspelled. So like Paula Dean.
Oh.
But Paula Dean instead of 2 E's, which is wrong.
Yeah.
One thing that's interesting, the different poster, like the different names that are used, they seem to have different posting habits based on the name.
Different habits, like how? Like if it were fake actor A versus fake actor B, they have like their own posting frequency based on...
Not necessarily frequency, but just different habits in what they post. So like, for example... So Jake Carson, which is one of these pseudonyms, his are mostly entirely copy pasted. Mm-hmm. This comes from a Reddit user. Oh, never mind. They deleted their account. I was going to give them credit, but anyway. So Jake Carson's posts are almost entirely copy pasted. Mm-hmm. Willie Jordan's posts are often unique, and they actually respond to the content of whatever article it is.
Huh, okay.
And then Roger Ramjets are often like sexual.
Interesting. So it's kind of like they have different alter egos, and depending on which alter ego they're feeling that day or whatever,
right,
that's what they're going for.
Yeah. So it's weird because they all mention this obscure restaurant, and these obscure items from this restaurant, the key lime pie and these cheeseburgers. So the earliest ones are kind of different than the later ones, the 2009, 2010. They're kind of like normal restaurant reviews. But the restaurant doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
After those, it seems to be the same stuff copy and pasted over and over with, an edit here and there.
Right.
On the original. He uses the phrases, "Hello, ladies. It just doesn't get better than this. Captain Kutchie never makes up stories." So he tends to repeat a lot of these phrases. And since then, nobody knows who's behind these posts. So I think I've talked on and on about this. So I can tell what the theories are. Number one, it's a spam. It's a bot. The high volume of the posting and how repetitive they can be, it makes some people think that it's just a bot. That maybe like these people that own this restaurant, Pelez's, they paid for this service, like to get attention to their restaurant, and then just like forgot to cancel it or something. But a lot of people don't think that's necessarily the case because the first posts appeared like 3 years after the restaurant closed. Number one, the style changes over time. And then it doesn't become like actual spam where stuff is copy and pasted until like 2013. And this would have been like at least 6 years after the restaurant closed.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense.
No, that doesn't.
Let's see. So another theory is that the posts were made to cover bad publicity about the restaurant or the family that owned it.
Really?
Which I guess people do. If unflattering results come up when you Google your name or Google a restaurant or a business, you can like maybe counteract that with posting a bunch of nonsense. That's a theory. But a lot of people say that seems like massive overkill. And the fact that the posts are so weird.
Yeah.
Is also, why not just say this restaurant's awesome or like they do this and this, but they're super bizarre and they have all these obscure references. Another theory, the posts were made to test SEO techniques.
Oh, okay.
What is SEO again? I've learned it at one point.
It's an optimization,
search engine optimization. That's what it is.
Yep. So like, if you're blogging or something, right? Like you want to use certain words or tags or whatever in order to trip something like on Google or whatever browser you're using.
Yeah.
So that you come up on the top of the page so that people will click in there, because people generally go to like the first 2 pages of Google to like look stuff up. And so you're getting more traffic to your website. People don't usually go to like the 20th page. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So this is another theory so they thought maybe it could be like a way to test this, like to see which types of posts on which site would get the most traffic. But then other people were like, well, if that was the case, then why would they actually pick a real restaurant from back in the day and real people?
Yeah. And with the kind of things that they're saying, it's very specific, like bizarre stuff. So I'm not really sure I buy that one either.
Another theory is that it's coded communication and that key lime pie and some of the other phrases that this person is using is like code for something more sinister. Why they picked this random restaurant that doesn't even exist anymore.
Maybe that
I don't know.
Say it again. I was saying like, maybe that is the reason. Like if it were for sinister reasons, they're picking a restaurant that's already closed so that it's not, I don't know, like harming against the actual owners or the restaurant itself. Because like, would you do that to a restaurant that's still open? Probably not, because you'll probably get caught.
Hey, that's a really good point. I never thought about that before, but that's true. So here's something interesting. Roger Ramjet, which is that cartoon from the 60s that this person posts under sometimes. The cartoon is actually about secrets being hidden inside pies.
Oh.
And then I already told you Kutchie is a Jamaican slang word for weed.
Right.
So are they engaged in drug trafficking? That's a thought.
That is a thought that actually
far-fetched, as some people have thought, but it's a theory.
I feel like I would choose that over the SEO stuff, though.
Yeah, I think that one makes the most sense.
Yeah.
That over everything else. The poster is a troll. They could just be doing this randomly.
Yeah.
Seems like something a troll would do, like some of the stuff they bring up, and a lot of their posts are sexual in nature, but a lot of them aren't. But this didn't really achieve a lot of attention like right away. It took years. So there had to, in my opinion, there had to be some other motive behind this. I mean, why would you just go on a restaurant or just pick this random obscure restaurant and start posting about it?
Right. And didn't you say that like they stopped doing it after they gained traction on Reddit?
Yeah. And I mean, I think there were actually some copycats that came out after that. But these original posts, yeah, they seemed like the poster kind of became aware that they were being mentioned or something and kind of stopped. I'm not really sure. It's unclear.
Yeah. So it doesn't seem like they really want to be known or well known for it, because if they wanted to be acknowledged for whatever reason, on something odd like that, they would have continued or they would have posted even more, right?
Yeah.
After they were starting to get mentioned around various places. But that's interesting.
The final theory that I'll talk about, I think that's just the final theory, is that this person is mentally ill or they have dementia, that maybe they either used to work at the restaurant or they used to frequent the restaurant when it was open, and now they're older and maybe they're mentally ill in some way and they're kind of fixated on this place. And so they post about it.
I considered that too. The only thing though is, not to be ageist.
No, that's okay.
But
go ahead.
The percentage of older people who would be able to do some tech stuff like that?
Well, when you say tech stuff, I mean, what they're doing, I mean, they're just posting stuff, on comment. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's the 2010s, right? So I feel like it's not necessarily, you don't have to be a genius to go on these websites and make these comments. I feel like you need a lot of time.
Yep.
And you must be bored. I don't think it's that techy to do it. I mean, if you have a computer and I don't know. I don't think leaving a comment is super techy, but maybe I'm not seeing, maybe I'm not thinking about it the right way.
No, I mean, I think it's logical, right? Because it's like, I don't know. Like to us, it's not that hard.
Right.
Go on websites and like leave comments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it depends on how old the person is too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, in my job before when I was traveling a lot and like I was going to all these places for training and stuff, the people I trained were, older than me. And it was hard to teach them how to do various things like exit out of this thing. And they didn't know how to do that, and these are people who use a computer all the time in what it is that they need to do, which is why I brought it up. Cause it's like, I guess it depends. Because I think, again, not to be ageist or anything like that, but like majority of the older population probably have a harder time doing tech stuff, even like 5-10 years ago. But as we continue to, advance, then, clearly the older generation is going to know how to do tech stuff. But, like I was saying, the people that I was training before, like it was hard for them to understand like filters and like how to exit out of something or another,
Yeah, absolutely. I think some people actually tried to like contact the family or something.
Oh.
I think the guy that used to own the restaurant, Captain Kutchie, Oswald Polite, apparently he's like in his 60s or late 60s. And I don't think he's mentally ill, but he might be a little eccentric. and this is coming from a Reddit post that did like a really in-depth. I really hope I did it justice because there's so much information about this, like people analyzing it and like, I don't know. That's essentially the mystery, that these random comments are coming up all over the internet for this random restaurant.
That's very... Do you think people think that it's the owner who's doing it or who had done it?
That was a theory, but I don't know, honestly. I think somebody said, I read a comment that somebody said like, it reminds them of like their older relative trying to like post stuff on Facebook, just the way they talk. And I think that like, I could see that, like, and I've seen like, I've known some mentally ill people that they do have like fixations on certain things, like things they bring up. And so it makes sense to me that this person could be like, I feel like this person is older and has somewhat of a mental illness, and they're kind of just fixated on this random restaurant for some reason. I don't know that it's the owner. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I guess my personal guess would be that it was somebody that used to frequent there, but not necessarily the owner. That's my guess.
Yeah. I think that I agree with the whole, like, you know, it's probably someone who did frequent the place before. The only thing is the whole age thing that I'm not 100% sure about. That's the only part where I'm like, I don't know. But just, again, based on, like, you know, what I said before. But, yeah.
But, you know, the messages are very, like, they're very, the person uses, like, full sentences and stuff. They're, like, you know what I'm saying? It's not, like, riddled with typos. It's not, like...
Yeah.
They're somewhat clever.
Yeah.
So I just wish somebody could just look up the IP address. Apparently that's an invasion of privacy or something.
Yeah.
That's Kutchie's key lime pies. I'll send you a link because it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's a really interesting. I mean, just like from what you're telling me, it feels very vast. Like there's a lot.
Over 700 that they've found posts on different websites on all different sort of topics, all referencing this one restaurant that's not even open.
That's interesting.
Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
It has to be somebody that's fixated on it, you know?
Right.
I don't know. Bizarre.
That's interesting.
That's the theme for today, is bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything that we had talked about was kind of like a head scratcher.
Yep. That's the world of unsolved mysteries.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing these with me.
Oh, anytime. Hey, thanks for being on this.
No problem. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, isn't it? Thank you. I'm really glad we finally did this. And I think there's tons more cases that I want to do. And if you're ever interested in coming back, let me know. And yes, a lot of the ones I'm interested in are like missing persons. But I'm telling you, if you like a story that really gets you thinking, some of these are crazy. Like they're just like, what happened? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'd love to come back and do this again. I thought this was a lot of fun. I think for like the missing or like the more morbid or like sinister stuff, like we can do it like earlier in the day. So
sure.
So that I have more time like between like
there's light out.
Yes. When there's light out, I have more time to like, you know, do other things and like distract myself from like all the stuff that I'm like thinking about from our conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
At least you live with somebody, right? I mean, and you've got a dog, that big dog to protect you.
Yes, that's true. But
yeah. So, but yeah, no, this is great. Thank you again for being on.
No problem. I'm happy to be on. And again, it was a lot of fun for me.
Yay.
This podcast has been approved by Skipper the Cat. Right, Skippy?